Everybody down. Hands where we can see them. The masked man's scream tore through Whitmore and Vale Jewelers and turned a quiet luxury showroom into a battlefield. The crash had come only a heartbeat before it. Glass shattered with a violent, ringing roar as a delivery truck slammed through the eastern side wall of the store. The engine coughed and growled inside the showroom, its headlights burning through a cloud of dust. Somewhere, "Oh my God, help me!" a female VIP cried. Stumbling backward in her cream-colored coat, one of the masked men rushed at her and shoved the butt of his gun against her shoulder, forcing her flat to the ground. "Shut up," he barked. "From now on, you do exactly what I say, or you'll regret breathing." People dropped to the floor. The alarms shrieked overhead, sharp and endless. Not one of them moved like an amateur. Maya William felt fear hit her first. She was standing beside the central display counter when the truck came through. "Everyone, stay quiet. Try to stay calm. Keep your heads down." She spoke in firm, clear. Her voice did not rise above the chaos. Maya did not lie down. Instead, she used the thick smoke and dust from the crash to move. She bent low, stepped behind a wide stone column near the central counter. At the base of the column, Jonathan Whitmore lay on the floor, the billionaire owner of Whitmore and Vale Jewelers. His eyes found Maya's, not with command, but with worry. Maya lowered her head, her voice barely. "Mr. Whitmore, take a deep breath. Stay face down. Protect your head. I'm right here." "Maya," he whispered, his voice shaking. "They have guns. Don't do anything reckless. I know exactly what they have." Maya glanced through the narrow gap between the column and the display case. Her gaze moved across the room with cold precision, like a radar sweep. Her lips barely moved as she counted. 6 men. Box truck positioned for escape. Light weapons, fully loaded. They're not random thieves. They have a floor plan. The words came out low, automatic, almost like a military report. Her old instincts were awake now. They were moving too smoothly, too deliberately. Nothing like ordinary robbers. Each had a role, a direction, a piece of the room to control. "Number 3, get it fast," the leader shouted, his voice thick with hatred. "Number 2, watch that old man who owns this place. If he moves, shoot him. Number 4, control those rich people. Number 5, kill the alarm and cameras now." Maya's eyes narrowed. Numbers, not names. A planned entry. A truck for impact and escape. A direct line to the private displays. One of the masked men kept scanning the showroom, turning his head left and right as if he was searching for something specific. Or someone. Maya's mouth curved almost imperceptibly. She leaned closer to Jonathan. "They're looking for you, sir. And they're calling each other by numbers. Whoever is behind this doesn't just want money. He wants to make a point. Mr. Whitmore, do you have any idea who that might be?" Jonathan's face tightened. He did not answer, but Maya saw the answer move behind his eyes. Preston Caldwell. The name did not need to be spoken. It had been hanging over the store for days. Maya's mind began sorting details at a speed that felt almost mechanical. Entry angle, weapon positions, civilian clusters. The leader suddenly turned toward the central counter, saw Maya's silhouette through the dust, and strode in her direction. He lifted the muzzle of his gun. "You, step out here. Open the safe, right now." Maya let her shoulders draw inward. She let her eyes widen just enough. She let her voice shake. "Sir, the safe requires a special key. It isn't here." The leader fired into the ceiling. The sound cracked through the store. People screamed and pressed themselves harder against the floor. Bits of plaster drifted down like dirty snow. "I'm giving orders," he snarled, not looking for excuses. He turned his head toward one of his men. "Find the old man for me, now." Then he jabbed the gun toward Maya. "Number 6, watch her. She moves. Break her." A masked man near the private lounge shouted, "Boss, got him right here." Number 2 hauled Jonathan up by the back of his suit jacket and shoved a gun into his back. The billionaire winced, fear flashing across his face, but he tried to keep his voice steady. "Gentlemen, calm down. I can pay you more than whatever you were promised. Just don't hurt anyone." "Shut your mouth," the leader yelled in his face. "Move. Open the private vault." or somebody dies. Jonathan looked once toward Maya. She gave him no signal. Not yet. With the gun pressed into his back, Jonathan stepped toward the vault behind the private display wall. His hands trembled as he entered the code and turned the reinforced handle. From the central counter, a heavy voice called out through a black mask. "Boss, the falling star is at 12 o'clock. The falling star. The $50 million diamond locked inside Whitmore and Vale." Close to Maya's column, number 6 shifted his stance. He was broad, careless, and too pleased with himself. He held a handgun low at his side, as if a sales clerk in a dusty vest could not possibly matter. "Hey, sales girl," he said, his voice rough and amused. "Step over here." Maya lowered her gaze, but her grip tightened around the steel tray in her hands. Her long fingers locked into place with exact precision, every movement measured down to the millimeter. She glanced toward the faint reflection in the secure display glass. He was coming closer. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1. "Looking for me?" Maya whispered. Her voice was so calm, so close, that the words seemed to rise directly behind the robber's neck. He jerked in surprise and tried to swing the gun toward her, but it was already too late. Thump. The heavy steel tray struck the back of number 6's neck with perfect accuracy. He did not even have time to understand what had happened. His eyes rolled upward, his body went loose, and he collapsed like a sack of grain. Maya caught him before he could hit the floor loudly, one arm under his shoulder, the other guiding his weight down with quiet control. She took the handgun from his hand. Jonathan Whitmore looked up from the floor, disbelief flashing through his fear. Maya lifted one finger to her lips. "Don't say anything." The billionaire nodded. Maya leaned closer, her voice barely louder than the dust settling around them. "Mr. Whitmore, I need you to help me. When I signal, cough hard. Loud enough to draw number 5 away from the camera station." Jonathan swallowed. "All right," he whispered. Maya pressed herself against the wall and scanned the room again. Number 5 was at the camera panel, trying to destroy the recorder. He was separated from the others and too confident. That was the weakness Maya needed. A faint sound had slipped from behind the column when number 6's boot shifted against the glass. Number 5 jerked his head up. "Who said that?" "Shut your mouth." He turned toward the stone column, irritation rising in his voice. "6? Where the hell are you? I told you to watch that side." No answer came. Number 5 cursed, dropped the camera cover, and stepped away from the wall with his gun low at his side. "6? You deaf? Fall asleep on a pile of diamonds?" Jonathan looked at Maya. She gave the smallest nod. The old man began coughing. The moment he passed the blind corner, Maya moved behind him. A whisper touched his ear. "He can't hear you," she said. "But you can hear me." "What the?" Maya's arm locked around his neck and shoulder in a tight military restraint, cutting off his strength before he could turn. Jonathan coughed harder, covering the struggle, while the alarm continued to wail above them. 5 seconds. That was all it took. Maya lowered him carefully beside number 6, neat and controlled. She removed his gun, checked it, and slid it away beneath the counter. 2 down. Across the showroom, an older woman who had been working near the consultation desk saw Maya. Maya caught her eye for half a second. She nodded. The woman pressed the button. Help was coming, but the sound that followed was not silent anymore. Somewhere behind the counter, the emergency system gave a sharp electronic chirp before the alarms shifted pitch. At the center of the showroom, the leader heard it. His head snapped toward the front desk. What was that? Number 3 had already forced open the reinforced case and was shoving the falling star into a black canvas bag. 5, 6, the leader shouted. What are you two doing over there? Number 1, who had been guarding the entrance and aiming his weapon at the terrified VIP clients, turned toward the column. 6, answer him. Nothing. Number 4, the leader barked. Go see what those idiots are doing. Number 4, the man assigned to control the customers, muttered under his breath and moved toward the side counter. Slow fools. Can't even watch one corner. Maya stepped deeper into the shadow behind the luxury display wall. She lowered her shoulders, changed her breathing, and let fear color her voice when she spoke. Sir, please. Your number 6 passed out. My boss has heart medicine. He's trying to help him. You need to come here. Number 4 stopped. What? 6 passed out? Please, Maya said, sounding small and shaken. I don't know what happened. He just fell. Number 4 moved faster, irritated and uncertain. The second he crossed into the blind spot between the central case and the stone column, Maya stepped out. She did not give him time to understand the trap. Maya followed with a precise sweep to his supporting leg. He dropped sideways, weapon slipping from his hand before he hit the floor. She caught the gun, kicked his knees clear of the glass, and pinned him long enough to secure his wrists with another display cable. 3 down. Then, from far outside the shattered wall, sirens began to rise. The leader cursed. Police! Number 1 spun toward the broken entrance. Boss, we need to move. Number 3, the leader shouted. You got it? Got it! Number 3 yelled, clutching the bag with the falling star inside. Let's go. Number 2, who had been holding a gun on one of the VIP clients near the private lounge, lost his nerve. He turned toward the crashed truck, ready to run with the others. That was when Maya stepped out of the dust. Leaving already? She asked. You gentlemen forgot to settle the bill. The room froze. Maya Williams stood between the robbers and the truck. The leader stared at her. You, he said. Where are my men? They're busy resting. Number 3 looked past her and saw number 4 on the ground. Then he saw number 5 tied near the camera station, and number 6 slumped by the column. The leader's voice dropped. You're not a sales clerk. Maya raised an eyebrow, her fingers resting lightly along the frames of the guns, disciplined and controlled. I'm advising you to put your weapons down. Number 1 snarled. You think you can scare us? No, Maya said. I think I can stop you. The military taught me that inside 5 yards, hesitation loses. You're already hesitating. The leader's pride overcame his judgment. Kill her. Number 1 lifted his weapon. 3 shots cracked through the showroom. Bang, bang, bang. The third struck the floor inches in front of the leader's boot, stopping him mid-step. The bag tore open. The falling star fell out of his bag. Number 3 lunged for it. Maya kicked the diamond case away from him and advanced 1 step. Don't. Something in her voice stopped him. Number 1 tried to raise his weapon again, but Jonathan Whitmore, still on the floor near the vault, grabbed a fallen display stand and shoved it into the robber's ankle. Number 1 stumbled. Maya moved in, struck his wrist with the steel tray she had reclaimed from the counter, and sent his gun spinning across the floor. 4 down. Number 2 lost his nerve completely. He threw his gun down and raised both hands. I'm done. I'm done. Coward, the leader shouted. Maya did not take her eyes off him. He made the smart choice. The leader raised his weapon anyway. Maya shifted slightly, not firing, not flinching. Last chance, she said. Then the front doors burst open. Chicago police, drop your weapons. Hands up. Within seconds, officers swarmed the room. They secured number 1, number 2, and the leader. They found number 3 sprawled near the torn bag, number 4 bound beside the column, number 5 tied beneath the camera station, and number 6 unconscious near Jonathan Whitmore. The officers slowed as they took in the scene. 6 armed robbers, all down. No dead customers, no stolen diamond, no blood, just dust, shattered glass, scattered jewelry. Ma'am, one officer said, stunned. Are you the one who did this? Maya looked toward Jonathan first. The billionaire was being helped to his feet by a paramedic. His shoulder hurt, his suit was torn, and his hands still shook. But he was alive. Maya finally answered, I just kept everyone breathing until you arrived. If Maya's courage touched your heart, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because someone near you may be watching this story too. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional and inspiring stories. Outside, cameras were already gathering behind police tape. Inside, the falling star lay safely beneath a clear evidence cover, shining against the marble floor. But everyone in that room knew the truth. The most valuable thing in Whitmore and Vale had never been the diamond. The first thing Maya noticed after the police took control was the sound. Not the sirens outside. Not the alarm still whining somewhere above the cracked ceiling. Not the officers shouting orders as they cuffed the 6 men and kicked weapons away from trembling hands. It was the sound of breathing. Dozens of people breathing, as if they had forgotten they were allowed to. A woman sobbed into her husband's jacket. A young man beneath the watch counter whispered, "Thank you, Jesus," over and over. Eleanor Pierce sat on the floor near the champagne table, her perfect blonde hair covered in dust, staring at Maya as if the employee she had managed for 2 years had been replaced by someone impossible. Maya stood still with both hands raised, her palms open, her white gloves gray from glass and smoke. "I'm unarmed now," she said calmly. 2 confiscated handguns lay on the marble floor in front of her, placed there with the barrels turned away from everyone. A Chicago police officer, broad-shouldered and breathing hard, stepped closer. His badge read Ramirez. His eyes moved from Maya to the men on the ground, then back to Maya. "Ma'am," he said, "keep your hands where I can see them." "They are," Maya replied. Her voice was steady, but inside her body, the aftermath had begun. Her knees felt lighter than they should. Her fingers had started to tremble. That always happened after. The body waited until danger passed, then charged interest on every second of control. Officer Ramirez looked at the nearest robber, then at the steel tray on the floor, then at number 5 tied beneath the camera station with a display cable. "You did all this." Maya glanced toward Jonathan Whitmore. "They came through the wall," I responded. "That's not what I asked." "I know." For a second, something like respect passed across Ramirez's face. "But procedure 1. We need you to step away from the weapons and kneel." Maya understood. She had worn a uniform long enough to know what a scene looked like to first responders. Broken glass, armed suspects, civilians screaming, a woman standing in the middle of it, who had somehow dropped 6 men. Nobody got to skip caution just because they were right. She lowered herself slowly to one knee. Jonathan's voice cut across the room. "Officer, she saved us." A paramedic was trying to examine his shoulder, but Jonathan pushed himself upright. His suit jacket was torn at the sleeve, his silver hair powdered with dust, but his voice carried the authority of a man used to being heard. "That woman saved every person in this store." Officer Ramirez did not look away from Maya. "Sir, I understand. We still have to secure the scene." "Then secure the criminals," Jonathan said, sharper now. "Not my employee." Maya looked at him and gave the smallest shake of her head. "Not now." Jonathan saw it. He stopped, though it clearly cost him. Ramirez noticed the exchange. His tone softened. "Ma'am, were you military?" Maya's jaw tightened slightly. "Yes." "Branch? Army? Combat training?" "Yes." He nodded as if a missing piece had clicked into place. "Stay right there until we sort this out." Maya stayed. The robbers were dragged away one by one. Number 1 cursed until an officer pushed his head down entering the patrol wagon. Number 2 cried and kept saying he had only been paid to scare people. Number 3 demanded a lawyer. Number 4 could not speak above a hoarse whisper. Number 5 looked dazed. Number 6, now awake and cuffed, avoided Maya's eyes completely. The leader said nothing. That silence bothered Maya most. Men who shouted during power often went quiet when the truth started circling them. As officers photographed the scene, a detective in a dark coat walked toward Jonathan and Maya. She was in her late 40s, with tired eyes and a voice that sounded like it had heard every lie in Chicago and still expected one more. "Detective Elaine Porter," she said, showing her badge. "Mr. Whitmore, Miss William, I'll need statements from both of you," Jonathan said. "You'll have my full cooperation. But first, my staff and customers need medical attention." "They're getting it." "And Miss William?" Porter looked at Maya. "She'll be checked too." "I'm fine," Maya said. The detective gave her the look. Older women often gave younger women who thought strength meant denying pain. "You were in a high-stress armed robbery and took down 6 suspects. You're getting checked." Maya almost argued, then did not. "Yes, ma'am." That small answer made Detective Porter's eyes sharpen with curiosity. Outside, television vans had begun gathering behind the police tape. Maya could see the blue-white flash of camera lights through the broken side of the building. People on the sidewalk held up phones. A few were already filming her through the shattered glass. Her stomach turned. She had wanted quiet. She had wanted a clean counter, a steady paycheck, and a life where nobody searched her name online. Now the world was pressing its face against the windows. A paramedic guided Maya to a chair near the back wall and wrapped a blood pressure cuff around her arm. Any dizziness? No. Headache? No. Pain anywhere? Maya looked down and noticed a shallow cut along the back of her left hand, where glass had sliced through the glove. A thin red line had spread beneath the gray dust. The paramedic followed her gaze. That counts. It's minor. People always say that before they pass out. Maya almost smiled, but the expression did not quite make it. Across the room, Jonathan gave his statement to Detective Porter. Maya heard pieces of it. Not random. Threats. The falling star. Money laundering proposal. Preston Caldwell. At that name, Detective Porter stopped writing. Say that again, she said. Jonathan's face hardened. Preston Caldwell. He approached me 6 weeks ago about moving diamonds through private international buyers. No records. No questions. I refused. And you believe this is connected? I don't believe in coincidences that come through my wall carrying guns. Maya looked down at her injured hand. Preston. She could still hear his voice from days earlier. Smooth and poisonous at the diamond counter. People like you should not be touching things worth more than a house. He had tried to make her look small. Now 6 men had tried to make Jonathan afraid. Maybe those were not separate acts. Maybe they were the same hand wearing different gloves. Detective Porter came to Maya next. She pulled a chair across and sat without ceremony. Miss William, I'm going to ask this plainly. Did you know any of those men? No. Did you know this attack was coming? Maya looked up. I knew something was wrong. I reported it. To whom? Eleanor Pierce, store manager. Porter glanced toward Eleanor, who was now wrapped in a silver emergency blanket and speaking shakily to another officer. What did you report? A truck circling the side street. A man watching the cameras. A guard out of position. A guest tracking exits instead of merchandise. And what did Miss Pierce do? Maya paused. She did not enjoy throwing people under buses, even when they had laid down in the road themselves. She dismissed it. Porter wrote that down. Why? Because of a prior incident with Preston Caldwell. What incident? Before Maya could answer, Jonathan crossed the room with his phone in his hand. I have the footage, he said. All of it. Not the edited clip online. The original. Maya looked at him. Jonathan met her eyes. This time, there was no hesitation in him. If this began with a lie, he said quietly, then the truth starts here. Detective Porter took the phone, watched for less than 30 seconds, and her expression changed. On the screen, Preston Caldwell stood at the counter, smiling as he insulted Maya. His friend recorded. His hand nudged the ring box. Maya bent to retrieve it. The trap was visible. Plain. Ugly. Porter looked from the phone to Maya. He posted this? His friend did. Maya said. Edited. Jonathan added. And tonight someone sent 6 armed men into my store after I refused his illegal proposal. Porter closed the video. Then we're going to find out whether Mr. Caldwell's bad manners stop at racism or extend to conspiracy. Outside, a reporter shouted through the police line. Is that her? Is that the sales clerk? Another voice yelled. Maya! Did you take down the robbers? The name hit her like a thrown stone. Maya stood too quickly, and the paramedic caught her elbow. Easy. I need air, Maya said. Detective Porter studied her for a moment, then nodded toward the rear hallway. Use the employee exit. Officer Ramirez, go with her. Jonathan stepped closer. Maya, she stopped. For the first time that evening, his voice broke. I should have protected you before tonight. Maya looked at the shattered showroom, the cuffed men being loaded outside, the customers wrapped in blankets, the diamond under evidence glass, and the old photograph of Jonathan's father's first shop, still hanging crooked on the wall. Sir, she said softly, tonight isn't over. He understood. Neither was the danger. Officer Ramirez led her toward the employee hallway. As Maya passed the mirror near the staff room, she caught her own reflection. Dust on her face. Torn vest. One glove cut open. Eyes too alert to belong to a woman who had found peace. Behind her, the showroom flashed red and blue. Ahead of her, the narrow hallway smelled like coffee, printer paper, and the ordinary life she had been trying so hard to keep. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Once, twice, then again and again. She did not look. She already knew. The videos were out. Chicago was learning her name. And somewhere in the city, Preston Caldwell was learning that the woman he had tried to frame had survived the trap. Maya pushed open the employee exit and stepped into the cold evening air. For one brief second, she closed her eyes and breathed. Then she heard the first reporter around the corner shout, "There she is!" And Maya William understood that stopping the robbers had only been the first fight. The reporter's voice cut through the cold Chicago air like a blade. "There she is!" Maya William opened her eyes. For half a second, the alley behind Whitmore and Vale Jewelers was only brick walls, winter wind, and the smell of dust still clinging to her clothes. Then, the world rushed in. Camera lights swung toward her from the mouth of the alley. Reporters pushed against the yellow tape. Phones lifted. Someone called her name, as if he had known it for years. "Maya, is it true you took down all 6 men? Were you armed before the robbery? Did you know the attackers? Are you former military?" Officer Ramirez stepped in front of her with one arm raised. "Back up. Give her space." But space was exactly what the world was no longer willing to give her. Maya kept walking beside him, her face calm, her hands visible, her torn glove hanging loosely around the cut on her left hand. She had walked through worse noise than cameras. She had learned not to flinch when men shouted. But this was different. Bullets ended quickly. Public judgment did not. A woman reporter leaned over the tape. "Maya, people online are calling you a hero. Do you feel like a hero tonight?" Maya stopped before she meant to. The word sat wrong in her chest. Hero. She thought of the woman in the cream coat sobbing on the marble. She thought of Jonathan Whitmore lying face down beneath a gun. She thought of number 6 collapsing before he knew he was in danger. She thought of the old military note in the wooden box at home. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. "I feel tired," Maya said. The alley quieted for one strange second. Then the questions came harder. Officer Ramirez guided her toward a waiting police vehicle. "That's enough." Before Maya got in, she looked once toward the shattered side of Whitmore and Vale. Red and blue lights flashed across the broken glass. Paramedics moved in and out. Officers carried evidence bags. The falling star, sealed beneath a transparent cover, was being photographed where it had fallen on the marble floor. Inside that store, the fight had ended. Outside, another one was beginning. Across town, in a penthouse above the river, Preston Caldwell watched the first viral clip on a 70-inch television. At first, he did not understand what he was seeing. The footage was shaky, filmed from beneath a display counter by a terrified customer. The angle was low. Dust blurred the frame. But there she was, Maya William, the quiet black sales clerk in the fitted vest, stepping out of the smoke with a steel tray in her hand. Preston leaned forward, his bourbon untouched on the table beside him. "No," he whispered. The clip cut to another angle. Number 5 dropped near the camera station. Number 4 fell beside the consultation table. The bag holding the falling star tore open. The diamond slid across the floor in a flash of cold fire. Then Maya appeared in the center of the room with 2 guns taken from the robbers, steady as if the chaos belonged to her. The caption beneath the video read, "Black sales clerk takes down 6 armed robbers at Billionaire jewelry store." Preston's jaw tightened. His phone began vibrating. First one message, then 10, then too many to count. One was from his friend Malcolm. "Is that the same woman from the bracelet video?" Another came from someone in his investment circle. "Tell me you're not connected to this Whitmore mess." Then his attorney called. Preston let it ring twice before answering. "Not now." "Preston," the attorney said, voice tight. "Please tell me you had nothing to do with what happened at Whitmore tonight." Preston stared at the screen as the news replayed Maya standing over the fallen robbers. "Watch your tone. I'm watching the news. So is everyone else. And I'm telling you now, if there is anything at all, tying you to those men, you need to stop talking immediately." Preston stood and walked toward the window. Below him, Chicago glittered along the river, wealthy and cold. "You work for me. I protect you when you let me. Did you contact anyone after Whitmore refused the diamond arrangement?" Preston said nothing. The silence was answer enough. The attorney exhaled sharply. "Do not delete anything. Do not call anyone. Do not speak to reporters. And for God's sake, do not mention the woman. The woman." That was what Maya had been to him. A woman behind a counter. A useful target. A face he could turn into a story. He had not expected resistance. Not from Jonathan. Not from her. Especially not from her. On the television, a local anchor spoke over footage of the robbery. Sources say the employee, identified as 30-year-old Maya William, is a former U.S. Army service member who left the military 2 years ago. Witnesses describe her actions as calm, precise, and life-saving. Preston threw the remote against the wall. The bourbon glass trembled but did not fall. His plan had been simple. Pressure Jonathan. Take the falling star if possible. If the robbery created too much heat, let suspicion drift toward the employee already bruised by scandal. The edited bracelet video had prepared the ground. A black sales clerk, publicly humiliated, former military, close to the cases. People would not need much. They rarely did. But Maya had not run. She had not frozen. She had defeated the men sent to make her look guilty. Now the city was calling her brave. Preston walked back to the television, breathing through his nose. No, he said again. But this time the word had anger inside it. No, no, no. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The 6 are alive. Police have them. Keep distance. Preston deleted it on instinct. Then he remembered his attorney's warning and cursed. At Chicago Police Headquarters, Detective Elaine Porter sat in an interview room with Maya just after midnight. Maya had been given a clean bandage for her hand, a bottle of water, and a paper cup of coffee she had not touched. Her vest still smelled faintly of smoke. Detective Porter placed a recorder on the table. You understand, this is a voluntary statement. Yes, ma'am. You can stop at any time. Yes, ma'am. Porter studied her. You say that like you've been debriefed before. Maya looked at the recorder. I have. The detective nodded and opened a folder. Let's go back to earlier today. You noticed a truck circling. Yes. Did you recognize it? No. What made it stand out? Wrong speed, wrong route. It passed the east side twice, then stopped where a delivery vehicle would have no reason to stop. The driver never unloaded anything. Porter wrote that down. And the man watching the cameras? He wasn't watching merchandise. He watched angles. Front camera, side camera, corner blind spot near the eastern wall. You told Eleanor Pierce. Yes. What did she say? Maya's eyes lowered for a moment. She said, after the Caldwell situation, I shouldn't make another accusation unless I was absolutely certain. Porter's pen paused. Tell me about the Caldwell situation in your own words. Maya did. She spoke without drama. The bracelet, the insult, the ring box, the phone, the edited video, the comments, Eleanor's silence, Jonathan reviewing the full footage, Preston's long history as a VIP client. When she finished, Detective Porter leaned back. Do you believe Mr. Caldwell planned tonight's robbery? I don't know what I can prove. That isn't what I asked. Maya looked up. I believe the men who came through that wall were sent by someone who wanted Mr. Whitmore frightened, discredited, or dead. I believe they knew the store layout. I believe they were prepared to destroy camera evidence. I believe they were looking for him specifically. And I believe Preston Caldwell had reason to hate both him and me. Porter watched her for a long moment. That's a careful answer. It's the only kind worth giving. A faint smile touched the detective's mouth and disappeared. Fair enough. In the hallway outside, Jonathan Whitmore refused to go to the hospital until he had made his own full statement. His shoulder was bruised, his blood pressure was too high, and a paramedic had already told him twice that stubbornness was not a medical plan. I'll go when we're done, Jonathan said. His attorney, Daniel Reeves, a silver-haired man who had known him for 20 years, stood beside him. Jonathan, you were held at gunpoint, and my employee was nearly framed. You don't know that yet. Jonathan looked at him. I know, Preston. Daniel lowered his voice. Then we need to be careful. If he's involved, he'll use lawyers, media, and money before he uses truth. You go out there angry, he'll make you look unstable. Jonathan glanced through the interview room window at Maya. She sat straight-backed, hands folded, exhausted but composed. He remembered her standing in his office after the bracelet incident, saying women like her were rarely allowed to be both right and angry. He had admired her restraint then. Now he hated that she had needed it. I believed her privately. Jonathan said. Daniel waited. That wasn't enough. No, Daniel said softly. It wasn't. By morning, every local station had the story. By noon, national outlets were asking for interviews. By evening, the first smear appeared online. It came from an anonymous account with a flag in the profile and no real name. Funny how the hero just happened to be ex-military and knew exactly where to hide. Maybe someone should ask how much she knew before the truck came in. Then another. Was this a robbery or an inside job gone wrong? Then another. Remember the video of her with Preston Caldwell? She looked unstable even then. Preston had not spoken publicly. He did not need to. The machinery had started. Doubt was cheaper than evidence and faster than truth. Maya saw the posts the next night in her apartment. She sat at her small kitchen table with her bandaged hand resting beside a bowl of soup that had gone cold. Her apartment was quiet, tidy, and dimly lit. Her boots were by the door. Her old military box sat unopened in the closet, though she could feel it there like a second heartbeat. Her phone kept buzzing. Some messages thanked her. Some called her a hero. Some called her a liar. Some used words that took her back to the diamond counter, to Preston's smile, to the way people watched cruelty and called it none of their business. She turned the phone face down. Outside, a bus hissed at the curb. Somewhere upstairs, a television played a game show, and an older man laughed through the ceiling. Ordinary sounds, civilian sounds. She had wanted to belong to them. A knock came at the door. Maya stood slowly, one hand near the small legal pocket knife she kept clipped beneath the kitchen shelf. She looked through the peephole. Jonathan Whitmore stood in the hallway holding a paper grocery bag. Maya opened the door, surprised despite herself. "Mr. Whitmore, I brought soup," he said. "From Manny's. My father believed hot soup solved half of life. He was wrong, but only by half." For the first time in 2 days, Maya almost smiled. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "Probably not. Reporters could follow you. They did. I lost them badly, which will upset my driver, because he thinks he is the only person in Chicago who can make a left turn." Maya stepped aside. Jonathan entered slowly, older now without the store lights around him. He set the bag on her table and looked at the cold soup already there. "Mine is better," he said. Maya closed the door. "Sir, why are you really here?" Jonathan's expression changed. "Because tomorrow morning, I'm holding a press conference. I'm releasing the full bracelet footage. I'm confirming your warning before the attack, and I'm telling the public exactly what Preston Caldwell tried to bring into my business." Maya looked at him carefully. "That will make you a target." "I already was. It will make the company a target. Then the company can finally stand for something worth targeting." Maya was quiet. Jonathan took a breath. "I should have done it sooner." "Yes," Maya said. The word was not cruel. That made it heavier. Jonathan nodded. "I know." For a moment, they stood in the small kitchen, a billionaire and a former soldier, both carrying different kinds of guilt. Then Maya pulled out a chair. "Soup gets cold," she said. Jonathan sat. Outside, Chicago moved through the night, unaware that the truth was gathering its strength in a quiet apartment on the south side. And across the city, Preston Caldwell watched another news segment with the sound muted, his reflection sharp in the dark window, already planning how to make Maya William bleed without ever touching her. By sunrise, the street outside Whitmore and Vale Jewelers no longer looked like a crime scene. It looked like a theater. News vans lined the curb. Camera crews stood behind metal barricades. Reporters warmed their hands around paper cups of coffee and practiced serious faces into their phones. Across the street, office workers paused on their way to elevators, staring at the shattered eastern wall, now covered with plywood and plastic sheeting. A few older Chicagoans stood with folded arms, shaking their heads the way people did when violence touched a place they thought money had made safe. Maya William watched it all from the back seat of Jonathan Whitmore's black SUV. She had not wanted to come. Jonathan had not asked twice. He had simply called at 6:30 that morning and said, "You do not have to speak, but you should be present when the truth is told." Now she sat beside him, wearing the cleanest version of herself she could assemble after 2 sleepless nights. Black slacks, a dark blouse, a simple coat, her hair tied back, the cut on her left hand covered by a fresh bandage. No uniform, no white gloves, nothing that belonged to the store except the posture years of discipline had carved into her spine. Jonathan looked older in daylight. The bruise on his shoulder had darkened. A small bandage crossed his temple, where a shard of glass had cut him. But his eyes were clear. "You still have time to wait inside," he said. Maya looked through the tinted window at the crowd. "If I hide, they'll say I'm afraid of the truth. You are allowed to be tired. I am tired. Then let me carry the first part." She turned toward him. There was something deeply old-fashioned about Jonathan Whitmore. He wore wealth, but not like armor. His father's shop had left marks on him, money had never erased. He still said please to drivers. He still stood when older women entered a room. He still wrote thank you notes by hand. Maya respected that. But respect was not the same as surrendering the burden. "You can carry the first part," she said. "But not all of it." Jonathan nodded once. "Fair." Outside, his attorney Daniel Reeves opened the SUV door. "They're ready." Jonathan stepped out first. Cameras immediately turned toward him. Questions flew from every side. "Mr. Whitmore, was this connected to organized crime? Did Maya William act alone? Was the diamond recovered? Is Preston Caldwell involved?" At that last name, Jonathan stopped for half a second. Only Maya saw it. Then she stepped out behind him. The noise changed. Maya, look this way. Are you really former Army? Did you fire shots inside the store? Did you know the robbers were coming?" Officer Ramirez and two private security men moved close, forming a narrow path to the podium set near the boarded window. Maya kept her eyes ahead. She could feel phones following her like insects. At the podium, Jonathan adjusted the microphone. He waited until the shouting settled. He did not rush. Older men who had built things with patience understood the strength of silence. "My name is Jonathan Whitmore," he began. "I am the owner of Whitmore & Vale Jewelers. Yesterday evening, 6 armed men drove a truck through the eastern wall of this store. They threatened my clients, my employees, and me. They attempted to steal the falling star, a diamond entrusted to our care. They failed." Cameras clicked. "They failed because of Maya William." The street quieted. Jonathan continued. "Miss William did not bring violence into my store. Violence came through that wall." She stopped it. Maya stood a few feet behind him, hands folded. The words moved through the crowd, but they did not move easily through her. Praise could feel like pressure when the same world had humiliated you days earlier. Jonathan lifted a small remote. A screen beside the podium came alive. Before last night's attack, Miss William had already been targeted publicly by a false and edited video involving a client of this store, Preston Caldwell. A murmur spread through the reporters. On the screen, the full security footage played. There was Preston at the diamond counter, smiling with his expensive cruelty. There was Maya placing the bracelet on the pad with care. There was Preston's hand, clear as daylight, nudging the ring box to the floor. There was Maya bending to retrieve it while his friend raised a phone. There was Eleanor Pierce standing nearby, watching and doing nothing. The edited lie dissolved in front of the city. Jonathan faced the microphones again. Miss William did not mishandle jewelry. She did not behave aggressively. She did not disrespect a client. She was insulted, baited, filmed, and falsely portrayed. Maya stared at the screen only once, then looked away. Seeing the truth did not erase the feeling of being watched while people decided whether your dignity mattered. Jonathan's voice grew harder. "Mr. Caldwell also approached me weeks ago with what he described as an international private diamond opportunity. I believed then, and I believe now, that it was an attempt to use this company for illegal financial activity. I refused. I turned over relevant documents to law enforcement this morning." A reporter called out, "Are you accusing Preston Caldwell of organizing the robbery?" Daniel Reeves leaned toward Jonathan, ready to intervene, but Jonathan raised a hand. "I am saying law enforcement should investigate every connection. I am saying threats followed my refusal. I am saying Miss William warned management about suspicious activity before the attack and was ignored. And I am saying this company will no longer protect clients who abuse employees simply because they spend money." That sentence struck harder than the others. Maya saw it in the faces of the older workers across the street. A janitor in a blue jacket nodded slowly. A woman carrying a lunch bag wiped under one eye. A bus driver stopped near the curb and stared at the screen from behind his windshield. Jonathan took a breath. My father started this business in a shop smaller than some of our current display rooms. He used to tell me that jewelry is not about stones. It is about trust. Yesterday, a woman I should have protected sooner protected all of us. Believing her privately was not enough. I should have defended her publicly. He stepped back from the microphone and turned toward Maya. For one terrible second, every camera followed his gaze. Maya had not planned to speak. She had promised herself she would not. Her throat felt tight, and the cut on her hand pulsed beneath the bandage. But then she looked at the boarded wall, at the place where the truck had entered, and thought of the woman in the cream coat, the old man coughing on the floor, the young client whispering a prayer beneath the watches. She stepped to the microphone. The reporters leaned in. Maya did not smile. She did not perform softness to make strangers comfortable. I did not wake up yesterday wanting to fight anyone, she said. I went to work. I checked inventory. I cleaned glass. I prepared trays. I wanted an ordinary day. The words were simple, but the street listened. When the attack happened, I was afraid. Anyone who says they wouldn't be afraid is either lying or doesn't understand danger. But fear is not an instruction. It is information. A reporter lowered her phone slightly. Maya continued. I acted because people were going to die. That is all. Not because I wanted attention. Not because I wanted to prove something. Not because I am angry at the world. I acted because someone had to. A man shouted, "Did your military training make you dangerous?" Maya turned toward the voice. No. It taught me restraint. The answer silenced him. She looked back at the cameras. There is a difference between violence and protection. People who abuse others often pretend not to know that difference. I know it very well. Jonathan stood behind her, his eyes wet but steady. Maya's voice softened. I am grateful people survived. I am grateful the police came. I am grateful Mr. Whitmore is telling the truth. But I also want to say this clearly. Workers should not have to become heroes before they are treated like human beings. The line traveled through the crowd like a bell. For a moment, there were no shouted questions. Then the noise returned, but it had changed. Less hungry, more uncertain. Across the city, Preston Caldwell watched the press conference from his penthouse with the volume turned up. He saw the full footage of his own hand knocking the ring box down. He saw Jonathan speak about the laundering proposal. He saw Maya stand at the microphone and refuse to sound broken. His face hardened. On his phone, messages arrived faster than he could open them. Investors asking questions. Friends distancing themselves. A board member from one of his funds demanding a call. Then one message from his attorney. Do not respond publicly. FBI may contact you today. Preston deleted it. Then he typed a new message to a media consultant he had used before. Change the story. Make her the story. He stared at Maya's face frozen on the television screen. Quiet. Controlled. Unafraid. Preston Caldwell had built his life on the belief that everyone had a price, a weakness, or a fear that could be used. Maya, William had fear. He had seen it now. But she had something worse for men like him. She had discipline, and discipline could not be bought. By noon, the press conference was no longer a press conference. It was a national argument. Maya William returned to her apartment with Jonathan's words still echoing in her mind. But by the time she took off her coat, the story had already split into two different Americas. One saw a quiet black former soldier who had saved innocent people from 6 armed men. The other saw an uncomfortable question they wanted asked, loudly enough to drown out the truth. Her phone would not stop lighting up. At first, the messages were kind. Veterans wrote to her. Older women thanked her. A retired schoolteacher from Milwaukee sent a note saying she had watched the video 3 times and cried because her late husband had served in Vietnam and moved with that same calm when storms came. A grocery store clerk from Ohio wrote, I wish somebody had stood up for me when a customer spit on my counter last year. Then the other messages arrived. Was this staged? How did she know exactly what to do? Why was an ex-soldier working near a $50 million diamond? Maybe she was in on it and turned on the robbers when things went bad. Maya set the phone face down on the kitchen table. Her apartment was quiet in a way that should have comforted her. A small lamp glowed beside the sofa. Her boots stood lined against the wall. A folded dish towel lay perfectly square on the counter. In the sink, there was only one spoon and one coffee mug. She liked things that could be cleaned. She liked problems small enough to solve with warm water, soap, and 10 minutes of attention. This was not that kind of problem. A knock came at her door. Maya did not move at first. She listened. 2 knocks. Pause. 1 knock. Not aggressive. Not hurried. She stood, checked the peephole, and saw Detective Elaine Porter in a dark coat, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. Maya opened the door. Detective. Porter lifted 1 cup. I brought coffee. It's bad, but it's hot. That sounds like police coffee. Gas station. Worse. Maya stepped aside. Detective Porter entered and glanced around with the practiced eye of someone who noticed exits before furniture. You always this neat? Yes. Military neat? Or personality neat? Both. Porter almost smiled. Fair answer. They sat at the small kitchen table. Porter placed 1 coffee in front of Maya but did not open her notebook right away. I'm not here to interrogate you, she said. Not exactly. That means? Partly. That means I need to warn you. Maya's gaze sharpened. Porter leaned back. Preston Caldwell has hired a crisis media firm. Expensive one. They specialize in making guilty people look complicated and innocent people look suspicious. By tonight, you will probably see stories about your military background, your service record, your temperament, maybe your finances. My finances? If they can't make you look criminal, they'll make you look desperate. Maya looked toward the window. Outside, a bus sighed at the curb. An older man in a bear's jacket walked a small dog through dirty snow near the sidewalk. I'm not desperate, she said. I know. That won't matter to people paid not to know. The words settled between them. Porter opened her folder and slid a photograph across the table. It showed one of the robbers without his mask, sitting in an interview room. Number 2. Younger than Maya had expected. Early 30s. Maybe. A bruise along his cheek. Eyes full of panic. He's talking, Porter said. What did he say? He claims they were hired to scare Jonathan Whitmore and take the falling star if the opportunity was clean. He says they were told the store had an inside weakness. Maya's hand tightened around the coffee cup. Me, Porter nodded. He didn't know your name, but he said they were told there was a black female employee with military training who could be blamed if things got messy. Maya did not speak. She felt something cold move through her that had nothing to do with fear. There it was. Clear now. She had not simply been humiliated by Preston Caldwell. She had been positioned. Her race, her gender, her silence, her service, her work badge, all turned into pieces of a trap. Porter's voice softened. Maya, I heard you. I need to ask. Is there anything in your military record they can twist? Maya laughed once, without humor. Detective, they can twist anything. A commendation becomes proof I'm trained to kill. A counseling note becomes instability. A deployment becomes trauma. A quiet life becomes suspicious. Porter watched her carefully. Were there counseling notes? Maya looked at her. I'm not judging, Porter said. I'm preparing. Maya let out a slow breath. After I came home, I saw a counselor for sleep issues. Loud noises, crowds, hypervigilance. Nothing violent, nothing disciplinary. Documented? Yes. Then they'll use it. Maya closed her eyes for half a second. Porter added, and we'll answer it. Properly. With context. My context doesn't trend as fast as their lie. No, Porter said. But evidence lasts longer. Before Maya could answer, her phone buzzed again. This time, the caller ID showed Jonathan Whitmore. She answered on speaker. Mr. Whitmore. Maya, are you with Detective Porter? Porter raised an eyebrow. Maya said, yes. Good. I just received a call from a board member. Preston's people are pushing a story that you were suspended from the military for excessive force. Maya's face hardened. That never happened. I know. No, she said, her voice lower. You don't know. You believe me. Jonathan was quiet for a moment. Then tell me what I need to know. Maya looked at Detective Porter, then at the bandage on her hand. I was never suspended. I was investigated after an incident overseas. A civilian contractor struck a local interpreter. I restrained him. He filed a complaint, saying I attacked him without cause. 3 witnesses cleared me. The contractor was removed. Porter wrote quickly. Jonathan's voice came through the phone, older and heavier. So you protected someone and were accused for it. Maya's mouth tightened. That seems to be a recurring theme. Porter looked up from her notes. Do you have documents? In my military file. I'll subpoena what we need, Porter said. Jonathan said, my legal team can assist if you authorize it. Maya looked at the phone. Mr. Whitmore, I don't want my whole life becoming company property. It won't. That's easy to say when you own the company. Silence. Then Jonathan said, you're right. I'm sorry. Tell me what boundary to respect. That answer surprised her more than it should have. Maya rubbed her thumb along the side of the coffee cup. No release of my records without my approval. No interviews arranged for me. No charity language. I'm not your symbol. No, Jonathan said quietly. You are my employee, and you saved my life. Those are facts. I'll honor the rest. Maya ended the call after they agreed to meet later with attorneys. Detective Porter studied her. You're good at drawing lines. I had to learn. Good. Keep doing it. By late afternoon, Preston Caldwell's counterattack arrived exactly as promised. A slick online article appeared with a headline designed to sound like concern rather than accusation. Hero Salesclerk, or Hidden Risk. Questions grow around former soldier in jewelry store robbery. The article mentioned Maya's military service, her counseling after discharge, the edited Preston video, and unconfirmed concerns about her temperament. It did not mention the full security footage proving Preston had baited her. It did not mention Jonathan's laundering accusation in detail. It did not mention the robber who had started talking. It mentioned her race without naming it directly. It mentioned her anger without proving it existed. It mentioned fear, as if fear were evidence. Within an hour, cable panels picked it up. In Preston's penthouse, a media consultant named Grant Vale stood beside the window, tablet in hand. The goal is not to prove she did anything, Grant said. The goal is to make people unsure long enough for your name to fade. Preston poured bourbon though it was not yet evening. And Whitmore? Paint him as emotional. Older billionaire almost killed, now blaming a former client because he's embarrassed about security failure. Preston nodded. Good. Grant hesitated. There is one issue. What? One of the robbers is cooperating. Preston's hand stopped over the glass. Grant continued. We don't know how much he knows, but if money gets traced, it won't. You deleted messages? Preston looked at him. Grant sighed. That was not an answer I liked. Back on the south side, Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror and removed the bandage from her hand. The cut was not deep, but it stung when air touched it. She cleaned it slowly, carefully, as if restoring one small part of the world to order. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from an unknown number. You should have stayed behind the counter. Maya stared at it. Then another message came. Heroes fall hard. She set the phone down. For the first time since the robbery, her hands shook visibly, not because she feared Preston Caldwell, because she understood him now. He did not need to defeat the truth. He only needed to exhaust everyone willing to carry it. Maya wrapped the clean bandage around her hand, smoothed the edge flat, and looked at herself in the mirror. Dust was gone from her face. The vest was gone. The white gloves were gone. But the soldier was still there, quiet, awake, waiting. The first time Maya William understood what exhaustion could do to a person. She was 24 years old and standing outside a temporary medical tent under a sky the color of burnt metal. Back then, a captain had told her that fear made people loud, but exhaustion made them honest. Maya had not believed him at first. Then she watched strong men cry over cold coffee. Angry men apologize to strangers. Quiet women carry entire rooms with one hand pressed against their own wounds. After enough pressure, people became what they truly were. By the next morning, Chicago was showing Maya what everyone truly was. The city had divided itself before breakfast. At a diner on the west side, old men in baseball caps watched the robbery footage on the television above the counter and argued over eggs and coffee. One said, Maya was exactly the kind of person every store needed. Another said nobody should be that calm unless they expected trouble. A waitress refilled their mugs and muttered, "Funny how saving lives still ain't enough for some folks." At a barber shop in Bronzeville, the video played on a phone passed from chair to chair. Men nodded with pride, but also with recognition. They did not just see a woman stopping robbers. They saw the look on her face when reporters started asking whether she was dangerous. That look was familiar. It was the look of someone who knew innocence did not always protect you. At a retirement home near Lake Michigan, an 80-year-old Army veteran named Harold Jenkins watched the clip 3 times and told his daughter, "That girl moved like someone who did not want to hurt anybody." That's the difference. People who know violence best don't waste it. But on national television, the argument was being sharpened into something uglier. Maya sat at Jonathan Whitmore's conference table later that morning with Detective Porter, Jonathan's attorney Daniel Reeves, and a labor rights lawyer Jonathan had brought in, named Denise Holloway. Denise was 61, black, silver-haired, and elegant in a navy suit that looked simple until you noticed the tailoring. Her voice was warm, but her eyes were not. They missed nothing. "You don't have to like cameras," Denise told Maya, sliding a legal pad across the table. "But you need to understand them. A camera does not show truth. It shows whatever someone frames." Maya looked at the legal pad. "I learned that with Preston's first video." "Yes," Denise said. "And now he is trying to do it on a national scale." Jonathan stood near the window, one hand resting against the back of a chair. His shoulder was still stiff from the robbery, but he refused to sit. The old photograph of his father's first shop had been moved into the conference room after the police sealed off part of the showroom. It sat on the side table, slightly crooked in its frame. Detective Porter opened her folder. Number 2 gave us a name for the broker who hired them. Not Preston directly. A man named Victor Sloan, private security background, works through shell contracts. He has done work for companies connected to Caldwell Capital. Daniel Reeves leaned forward. "Connected? How?" "Subcontracted through 2 layers. Clean enough to deny, dirty enough to smell." Jonathan's jaw tightened. Preston always liked distance between himself and consequences. Denise looked at Maya. "That means he will attack your credibility before investigators can finish tracing his money." "He already started," Maya said. "Yes, and he will keep going. The article yesterday was only the opening move. Today they'll bring in commentators. Tomorrow, maybe an old complaint from your military file. Then anonymous sources. Then questions about your temperament." Maya folded her hands on the table. Her bandage was clean, white, and tight. There was no temperament problem. "I believe you," Denise said. "But the public does not operate on belief. It operates on repetition. If they hear a lie enough times, it starts sounding like a concern." Jonathan turned from the window. "Then, we answer every lie." Denise shook her head. "No. We answer the dangerous ones. If we chase every insult, we let them choose the battlefield." Maya looked up at her. "What battlefield do we choose?" Denise's expression softened just a fraction. "Evidence. Restraint. Pattern." Detective Porter nodded. "Preston's pattern matters. We're looking at prior complaints from employees in places where he was a major client. Restaurants, hotels, private clubs, luxury retailers. Similar behavior. Staff of color. Women, especially. Edited clips. Quiet settlements." Jonathan exhaled slowly. "I knew he was arrogant. I didn't know it went that far." Maya said nothing. Denise noticed. "You're not surprised." "No." "Why?" Maya's gaze moved to the photograph of Jonathan's father's shop. Men like Preston practice on people no one protects. For a moment, the room went still. Jonathan lowered his eyes. Before anyone could answer, Daniel's phone buzzed. He read the screen, and his face darkened. "Caldwell's team just released a statement." Denise held out her hand. "Read it." Daniel did. His voice clipped. "Mr. Caldwell condemns the violent attack on Whitmore and Vale, and is grateful no innocent lives were lost. However, recent attempts by Mr. Intent Creasing Whitmore to connect him to this tragedy are irresponsible, defamatory, and clearly designed to distract from serious questions about store security and the unexplained conduct of a former military employee present during the robbery." Maya laughed once. very quietly. Jonathan looked at her. Maya? She shook her head. He called me unexplained. Denise's voice grew firm. That word was chosen carefully. It makes you sound like evidence instead of a person. Detective Porter's phone rang. She stepped aside to answer, listened for less than a minute, then turned back. We found Victor Sloan. Jonathan straightened. Where? Dead-end address in Gary, Indiana. Empty office. But we recovered trash from a burn bin behind the building, partial documents, shipping diagrams, and a torn printout of your store's floor plan. Daniel said, Any link to Preston? Not yet. But there's a handwritten note on one surviving corner. Initials P, C, and a date from 3 days before the robbery. Jonathan closed his eyes briefly. Denise tapped her pen once on the table. Good. That's movement. Maya felt no relief. A floor plan with initials was not a conviction. She knew how systems worked. Proof had to crawl, while lies rode express trains. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Denise noticed. Is that still the unknown number? Maya checked. Another message had arrived. You should have let the old man die. Jonathan saw her face change. What is it? Maya placed the phone on the table and turned it toward them. The room changed. Detective Porter photographed the message immediately. Don't delete anything. I haven't. Good. We'll trace what we can. A second message arrived while they were watching. Next time the glass breaks, you won't hear it coming. Jonathan's face went white with anger. That's a threat. Maya's voice remained controlled. Yes, sir. Don't yes, sir me through this. She looked at him then. What would you prefer I do? Be angry. The words came out before he could stop them. Maya's eyes held his. You remember what I told you. Women like me don't always get to be right and angry. Denise leaned back in her chair. In this room, you do. Maya looked at Denise, then at Detective Porter, then at Jonathan. For a moment, the mask of discipline cracked just enough to show the exhaustion underneath. I am angry, she said softly. I'm angry that I went to work and had to fight like I was back in uniform. I'm angry that a man can insult me on camera and still be called a client. I'm angry that after saving people, I have to prove I didn't plan the danger. I stopped. I'm angry that Mr. Whitmore had to almost die before everyone cared about what Preston was doing. Jonathan flinched, but he did not look away. Maya continued, voice low. And I'm angry that if I show too much of that anger, people will call it evidence. No one interrupted her. Denise nodded slowly. Good. That is the truth. We may not say it exactly that way on television, but we will build around it. Maya sat back, suddenly tired. Detective Porter's phone buzzed again. She checked it, and this time her eyes sharpened. Number 2's attorney is offering a proffer. He says his client can identify the man who gave the final order. Victor Sloan? Daniel asked. Porter shook her head. Higher. Jonathan's hand tightened on the chair. Maya already knew before Porter said it. He says the name Preston Caldwell was used in the planning meeting. Outside the conference room, the office staff had gone quiet. News coverage played silently on a wall-mounted television. Maya's face appeared again and again, beside words like hero, questions, military, investigation. Inside, for the first time since the truck hit the glass, the truth gained ground. But Maya had learned never to celebrate too early. Preston still had money. Preston still had lawyers. Preston still had friends who would call cruelty a misunderstanding if the wine was expensive enough. And now he had something worse than arrogance. He had fear. Fear made powerful men reckless. Denise closed her legal pad. Maya, from this moment forward, you do not go anywhere alone. I can take care of myself. I know, Denise said. That is not the point. Even soldiers need witnesses. The sentence landed deep. Maya thought of the bracelet video. The silence. The way everyone had seen, but no one had stood close enough to matter. Witnesses. Maybe that was what justice needed most. Not heroes. Not speeches. People willing to stand near the truth when it became inconvenient. Jonathan looked at her. My security team will drive you home. Maya almost refused. Then, she saw the threat message still glowing on her phone. Next time the glass breaks, you won't hear it coming. She picked up the phone, locked the screen, and nodded once. All right, It was not surrender. It was strategy. The security team drove Maya home in a black sedan with tinted windows, the kind of car she had spent years seeing from the outside and never imagining would one day wait for her. She sat in the back seat, with her hands folded over her phone, watching Chicago slide past in pieces. Corner stores with lottery signs, old brick churches, bus stops, where tired women held grocery bags against the cold, men in work jackets walking home with their shoulders hunched against the wind. The city looked ordinary, but Maya no longer trusted ordinary the way she once had. The driver, a former police officer named Carl, glanced at her through the mirror. "You want me to take Lake Neighborhood?" Maya said, less predictable. Carl nodded once. He did not ask why. That told her Jonathan had chosen him carefully. In the passenger seat, a younger security man named Ellis kept checking the side mirror. He was polite, too polite, the way people became around someone they had seen in a viral video, but did not know how to speak to in real life. After 10 minutes, he finally said, "Miss William, my aunt saw the footage. She told me to tell you she's praying for you." Maya looked up. "Tell her thank you. She's 72. Lives in Englewood," she said. "You reminded her of her sister." Maya expected him to continue, but he stopped there. The quiet after his words was respectful. She looked out the window again. Was her sister military? "No, ma'am. Grocery cashier. Raised 4 kids. Took nonsense from nobody." Maya almost smiled. "Sounds trained enough." Ellis laughed softly, and for a moment the car felt less like protection and more like people going home after a long shift. Then Carl slowed. Maya noticed before he said anything. His shoulders changed first. Then his right hand moved closer to the radio. "Gray SUV behind us," Carl said. "Been there 3 turns." Ellis checked the mirror. "Same one from Michigan Avenue?" "Maybe." Maya did not turn around. Turning around told followers they had been seen. Instead, she studied the reflection in the passenger side window. Gray SUV. 2 occupants. Not close enough to panic. Close enough to test. "Don't go to my building," Maya said. Carl's eyes met hers in the mirror. Already wasn't. He turned right instead of left, then took a second turn toward a small strip mall with a 24-hour pharmacy and a diner whose neon sign buzzed weakly in the dusk. The gray SUV continued past without turning in. Ellis exhaled. "Could be media. Could be," Maya said. Carl pulled into the pharmacy lot but did not park near the entrance. "We'll circle once more before taking you in." Maya's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She looked at the screen. "You look tired, soldier." Her body went still. Another message appeared before she could speak. "Nice car. Whitmore buying your loyalty now?" Maya turned the phone toward Carl and Ellis. Carl's jaw tightened. "They're watching." Ellis reached for his radio. "Calling it in." Maya looked toward the street. The gray SUV was gone, but the message had done what it came to do. It had put a hand on the back of her neck from a distance. Carl drove again, this time through a longer route, crossing side streets, pausing under lights, watching reflections in dark storefront windows. By the time they reached Maya's apartment building, 2 more Whitmore security vehicles had arrived. Carl walked her to the entrance, while Ellis checked the alley. "This is too much," Maya said. Carl stood beside the door, scanning the street. "No, ma'am. Too much was a truck through a jewelry store. This is catching up." Inside her apartment, everything was exactly as she had left it. Lamp glowing, bowl washed and drying upside down in the rack, military box still shut in the closet. But the place no longer felt untouched. It felt observed. Maya locked the door, then locked the chain, then wedged the small rubber doorstop beneath it. She checked the windows. She turned off the lamp near the front room and left only the kitchen light on. Not darkness, not full brightness, enough to move, not enough to be displayed. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Denise Holloway. "Are you home?" Denise asked. "Yes." "Security confirmed?" "Yes." "Good. Detective Porter just called me. The number sending threats is routed through a masking service, but the timing matches someone physically watching your route." "I know. I figured you did. I'm saying it anyway because people under threat sometimes treat confirmation like permission to ignore it." Maya leaned against the counter. "I'm not ignoring it. No. You're absorbing it quietly, which can look similar from the outside. Maya shut her eyes for 1 second. What do you need from me? Tomorrow morning, there will be a preliminary hearing tied to the robbery and the evidence chain. Preston may not be charged yet, but his lawyers will be present because Jonathan named him publicly. They will try to turn that room into a referendum on you. Of course they will. They'll ask why you didn't just hide, why you touched weapons, why you fired, why a former soldier worked at a store holding a $50 million diamond. And what do I say? The truth, but not all at once. People are not owed every wound just because they ask loudly. Maya opened her eyes. That sounds like something you learned the hard way. Denise was quiet for a moment. Most useful things are. After the call ended, Maya walked to the closet and took out the wooden box. She had not opened it since before the robbery. Maybe longer. She set it on the kitchen table and lifted the lid. Inside lay a folded flag patch, a few service ribbons, a photograph of her unit, and the note she had carried through too many hard nights. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. Beneath the note was another photograph, one she rarely looked at. Maya, at 23, standing beside a translator named Samira, outside a rebuilt school. Samira had been small, fierce, and always wore a blue scarf, no matter how much dust the wind threw at it. Maya had restrained a civilian contractor who struck Samira in front of witnesses. The contractor complained. Maya was investigated. Cleared. Yes, but the lesson had remained. Protect someone. And the first question might still be what you did wrong. She touched the edge of the photo. I'm tired of proving protection isn't violence, she whispered. The apartment did not answer. The next morning, the courthouse smelled like floor polish, wet wool coats, and old paper. People over 45 filled the benches more than Maya expected. Some were reporters. Some were curious citizens. Some were service workers in uniforms who had come before shifts. Hotel housekeepers, retail clerks, restaurant servers, security guards. A few veterans sat together near the back, wearing caps with unit patches and quiet expressions. When Maya entered with Denise, the room shifted, not loudly, just enough. A woman in a grocery store vest touched 2 fingers to her heart. An older black man in a Marine Corps cap gave Maya a small nod. A white-haired woman near the aisle whispered, "Stand tall, baby." As Maya passed, Maya did not know her, but the words steadied something inside her. Jonathan sat at the front with Daniel Reeves. He stood when Maya approached. Despite the bruise at his temple and the sling supporting his shoulder, he still looked like a man trying to hold up the wall with dignity alone. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning, sir." Denise leaned toward Maya. "Remember, you are not here to earn your humanity. You already have it." The judge entered a moment later, and the room rose. Judge Patricia Hernandez was in her early 60s, with silver-streaked hair, sharp eyes, and the calm impatience of someone who had no interest in theater pretending to be law. She reviewed the file before looking up. "We are here regarding evidence preservation, witness protection concerns, and preliminary matters connected to the armed robbery at Whitmore and Vale Jewelers," she said. "I understand there are also claims being floated publicly about Miss Maya Williams' conduct. I will say this once. This courtroom is not a cable news panel. Speak with evidence, or sit down." A quiet ripple moved through the room. Preston Caldwell entered 5 minutes late. Maya did not turn at first. She knew it was him from the way the air tightened. Expensive cologne, leather shoes, confidence trying to disguise fear. He wore a charcoal suit and a wounded expression, as if the world had wronged him by noticing his fingerprints near the truth. His attorney, a polished man named Everett Sloan, walked beside him carrying a leather briefcase in the face of someone paid to be offended. Preston looked at Jonathan first, then at Maya. For just a fraction of a second, his mask slipped. There it was. Not guilt, not shame, hatred. Maya held his gaze and felt nothing rise in her except clarity. Everett Sloan stood. "Your Honor, my client is deeply concerned by defamatory public accusations made by Mr. Whitmore. Accusations that appear designed to shift attention away from troubling questions about an employee who engaged in extraordinary violence inside a civilian retail environment." Denise rose slowly. "Your Honor, Miss Williams stopped 6 armed men without a single fatality." Sloan turned slightly. "That is one interpretation. Judge Hernandez looked over her glasses. Counselor, if you have evidence Miss William was involved in the robbery, present it. If you have adjectives, save them for your press release. Someone in the back coughed to hide a laugh. Sloane's jaw tightened. We have questions about her background. Denise's voice sharpened. A black woman's background is not probable cause. The courtroom went still. Judge Hernandez tapped her pen once. Proceed carefully, Mr. Sloane. Before he could answer, the side door opened, and Detective Porter entered with an FBI agent Maya had not seen before. The agent carried a sealed evidence folder. Detective Porter walked straight to the prosecutor and whispered something. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the state has received new evidence from a cooperating suspect. It directly concerns the planning of the robbery and an attempt to frame Miss William as an inside participant. Preston's attorney stiffened. Preston did not move, but Maya saw his right hand close slowly into a fist. Judge Hernandez leaned forward. Then I suggest we hear it. For the first time since the truck had shattered the glass, Maya felt the room tilt toward the truth. Not all the way. Not yet. But enough for everyone to feel the floor move. The prosecutor's words seemed to hang above the courtroom longer than they should have. An attempt to frame Miss William as an inside participant. Maya did not move. She kept her hands folded on the table, her shoulders square, her face controlled. But inside, something old and bitter tightened. It was one thing to suspect that Preston Caldwell had tried to use her as a scapegoat. It was another thing to hear it spoken in a courtroom, with the seal of the state behind it. Judge Hernandez looked toward the prosecutor. What is the nature of the evidence? The prosecutor, a measured woman named Angela Brooks, adjusted her glasses and opened the file the FBI agent had brought in. Your Honor, one of the suspects arrested at the scene, currently identified in the robbery plan as number 2, has provided a proffer through counsel. His statement includes details about the planning meeting, payment structure, and specific instructions regarding Miss William. Preston Caldwell sat at the opposite table, expression blank. Too blank. Maya had seen that kind of face before. Men wore it when they believed stillness could pass for innocence. Judge Hernandez said, Proceed. Angela Brooks nodded to the FBI agent. Special Agent Marcus Bell will summarize the relevant findings. Agent Bell took the stand. He was a tall man in his 50s with a calm voice and the slightly tired eyes of someone who had spent years following money through places designed to hide it. After being sworn in, he opened a folder. The cooperating suspect states that the robbery crew was hired through an intermediary named Victor Sloane. Sloane provided a floor plan of Whitmore and Vale Jewelers, entry timing, camera locations, and the location of the falling star. The crew was instructed to use numerical identifiers during the operation and avoid real names. Denise Holloway glanced at Maya, as if to say, You were right. Maya's face did not change. Agent Bell continued. The crew was also told that if police response was faster than expected, or if the diamond could not be moved cleanly, suspicion should be directed toward an employee inside the store. Judge Hernandez leaned forward. Which employee? Agent Bell looked down at the report. A black female sales associate, former military, recently involved in a public dispute with a VIP client. The suspect did not know her full name before the robbery, but later identified her from media coverage as Maya William. A murmur passed through the gallery. Maya heard someone behind her whisper, Lord, have mercy. Preston's attorney, Everett Sloane, rose quickly. Your Honor, this is hearsay from an admitted armed robber seeking leniency. Judge Hernandez did not look impressed. Sit down, Mr. Sloane. You'll have your opportunity. Sloane sat, but not before exchanging a sharp glance with Preston. Agent Bell went on. The suspect further stated that the plan included destroying security footage. However, if footage survived, the public narrative would be shaped around Miss Williams' access, training, and supposed motive. The prior edited video involving Mr. Caldwell was referenced as useful background. Denise's jaw tightened. Jonathan lowered his head for a moment, as if the words had physical weight. The prosecutor asked, Was the name Preston Caldwell mentioned in the planning meeting? Agent Bell paused. According to the cooperating suspect, yes. He states that Victor Sloane referred to the person financing the operation as Caldwell at least twice. Once in the phrase, Caldwell wants Whitmore scared. not dead unless necessary. And once in the phrase, if it goes sideways, the girl gives us cover. The courtroom changed, not loudly, not dramatically. It was more like the temperature dropped. Maya looked at Preston. For the first time, he looked away. Everett Sloane stood again. Your Honor, this is outrageous. My client's surname is not rare, and no financial link has been established in this courtroom. Angela Brooks turned one page. That is not accurate. We are prepared to submit preliminary financial tracing showing payments from a shell consulting firm to Victor Sloane. That shell firm received funds from an investment vehicle with documented ties to Caldwell Capital. Sloane snapped. Indirect ties. Agent Bell said evenly. 2 layers removed. Common in laundering structures. Judge Hernandez raised a hand. One at a time. Denise Holloway rose. Her voice was steady but edged with steel. Your Honor, for days Miss William has been publicly smeared as suspicious, unstable, and potentially involved. We now have testimony from a cooperating suspect, financial indicators, floor plans, threat messages, and a prior staged incident involving the same man whose name appears in the planning of this attack. At minimum, Ms. William requires protection, and the public allegations against her have no good faith basis. Sloane turned toward her. Miss Holloway is making a speech. Denise did not blink. No, Mr. Sloane. I am identifying a pattern. Your client tried to humiliate her, then tried to make her useful, then tried to make her guilty. That is not a speech. That is sequence. A low sound moved through the gallery. Not quite approval, not quite anger. Judge Hernandez tapped her pen once, and the room settled. Miss William, the judge said. Maya looked up. Yes, Your Honor. I understand you have not been charged with anything. Still, your name has been placed at the center of a very public narrative. Do you wish to make a statement regarding the claim that you had any role in assisting the robbery crew? Denise leaned slightly toward her. You do not have to. Maya knew that. She also knew silence sometimes became a blank screen for other people's lies. She stood. The courtroom became very quiet. I did not help those men, Maya said. I did not know them. I did not know they were coming. I noticed warning signs before the attack and reported them. I was ignored. Her voice was low, but every word carried. When the truck came through the wall, I was afraid. I want that understood. I was not calm because I felt nothing. I was calm because people were going to die if I let fear make decisions for me. She looked briefly toward Jonathan, then back to the judge. I served in the army. That training taught me how to control a weapon, how to protect civilians, and how to stop a threat without using more force than necessary. It did not teach me to rob jewelry stores. It did not teach me to frame innocent people. And it did not teach me to let someone die, just because saving them might make me look dangerous. A few people in the gallery lowered their eyes. Maya continued. And now, for the first time, anger entered her voice. Not wild anger, not uncontrolled. The kind that had waited its turn. People keep asking why I did not hide. The answer is simple. I saw what was happening. I knew what I could do. And I knew that if I did nothing, someone else's family would get a phone call they would remember for the rest of their lives. The courtroom held still. I will not apologize for preventing that. She sat down. Denise placed a hand lightly on the table beside her. Not touching, just near enough to be felt. Judge Hernandez watched Maya for a long moment. Then she turned to Agent Bell. Special Agent, are there ongoing threats against Miss William? Yes, Your Honor. She has received anonymous messages indicating surveillance and future harm. We are attempting to trace them. Are those threats believed connected to this matter? Yes. Judge Hernandez looked at the prosecutor. The court is ordering preservation of all relevant digital records, communications, security footage, financial documents, and employment records connected to Whitmore and Vale, Preston Caldwell, Caldwell Capital, Victor Sloane, and the arrested suspects. Miss William is to be treated as a protected witness. Any attempt to intimidate, threaten, dox, stalk, or defame her through knowingly false claims may be considered obstruction or witness tampering. Sloane stood. Your Honor, defamation is a civil matter. Judge Hernandez's eyes cut toward him. Threatening a witness is not. Sit down. He sat. The judge then looked directly at Preston. "Mr. Caldwell, you are not charged in this proceeding today, but I strongly advise you and anyone acting on your behalf to stop treating the public as a dumping ground for theories you are unwilling to support under oath." Preston's face tightened. Maya saw the hatred again, but now it had something else inside it. Fear. The hearing adjourned 20 minutes later, but no one moved quickly. Reporters were already gathering outside the courtroom doors. Denise told Maya to wait while security cleared a path. Jonathan stood beside her, silent for a moment. Then he said, "What you said in there mattered." Maya looked straight ahead. "I said what happened. That's why it mattered." Before she could respond, an older man in a Marine Corps cap approached slowly from the gallery. Security moved to stop him, but Maya raised a hand. He stopped a respectful distance away. His face was lined, his eyes wet. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm Harold Jenkins. Served in '68. Maya nodded. "Good to meet you, sir." He swallowed. People who never had to act under pressure always think they would have done it cleaner. Don't let them put their cowardice on your courage. Maya felt those words more than she expected. "Thank you," she said softly. Harold nodded once and turned away before emotion could embarrass either of them. Outside the courtroom, the doors opened. The hallway erupted. "Maya, did the FBI clear you?" "Mr. Caldwell, did you finance the robbery?" "Preston, are you under investigation?" Preston pushed through with his attorney, refusing to answer. But the questions followed him like thrown stones. For the first time, the cameras were not chasing Maya first. They were chasing him. Maya watched as his polished confidence began to crack under public light. Denise leaned close. "Remember this feeling, but don't trust it too much. A cornered man is dangerous." Maya nodded. At the far end of the hallway, Detective Porter stood beside Agent Bell. Porter lifted her phone slightly, signaling she had news. Maya walked toward her with Jonathan and Denise close behind. Porter did not waste words. "We traced the threat messages." Maya's pulse slowed rather than quickened. "To who?" "Burner phone purchased in Indiana. But the device pinged last night near your apartment, then near Caldwell's private club this morning." Jonathan's face darkened. "That's enough to pick him up?" "Not yet," Agent Bell said. "But we also got a partial plate from the gray SUV following your security car. Vehicle is registered to a private firm owned by Victor Sloan's cousin." Denise exhaled. "They're still watching her." Porter nodded. "Which means they are scared enough to keep making mistakes." Maya looked down the hallway where Preston had disappeared. For 2 days, he had turned her name into a question. Now his own name was becoming one. As they moved toward the secure exit, Maya passed a courthouse window and saw her reflection in the glass. Dark coat, bandaged hand, straight back, tired eyes. Not a sales clerk, not a suspect, not a symbol, a witness, a survivor, a soldier who had tried to come home to peace and found that peace sometimes had to be defended in courtrooms as much as in shattered rooms full of smoke. Her phone buzzed once. Everyone near her stopped. Maya looked at the screen. Unknown number. This time, the message was only 5 words. "You should have stayed quiet." Maya stared at it, then turned the screen toward Detective Porter. Porter's mouth hardened. "Forward it to me." Maya did. Then she looked at Denise. "You said soldiers need witnesses." Denise nodded. Maya put the phone away. "Then, let's make sure everyone sees." By the time Maya stepped out of the courthouse through the secure side exit, the message had already reached Detective Porter, Agent Bell, Denise Holloway, Jonathan Whitmore, and the federal cyber unit working the case. "You should have stayed quiet." 5 words, small enough to fit on a phone screen, heavy enough to change the rhythm of the day. Maya sat in the back of Jonathan's security vehicle while the city moved around her in gray winter light. Outside, people hurried across the sidewalks with coffee cups, briefcases, grocery bags, and lunch containers. Life continued in the ordinary American way, stubborn and unaware. A bus sighed at the curb. A man in a work jacket helped an older woman step over a patch of dirty ice. A flag snapped above the courthouse entrance. Somewhere, a church bell marked the hour. Inside the car, nobody spoke for 3 blocks. Denise sat beside Maya, reviewing notes on a yellow legal pad. Jonathan sat in the front passenger seat this time, against security's advice. Because he said he was tired of letting other people stand between him and consequences. His driver, Carl, kept both hands on the wheel and his eyes moving. Maya looked down at her bandaged hand. "Say it," Denise said, without looking up. Maya turned slightly. "Say what? What you're holding in." Maya watched the traffic light change from red to green. "He's getting sloppy." Denise nodded. "That's one way to put it. He wanted me quiet. Now he wants me scared. Those are different goals." Jonathan looked back from the front seat. "What does that mean?" "It means the plan is changing," Maya said. "At first, Preston wanted control. Now he wants damage." Carl glanced into the mirror. "That makes him more dangerous." "Yes," Maya said. "But also, easier to read." Denise finally looked up. "Good. Because this afternoon we stop reacting." The security car turned into the underground garage beneath Whitmore and Vale's temporary corporate office. The main store remained sealed for evidence and repairs, so Jonathan had moved operations into the upper floors of the building next door. It was quieter there. Carpeted halls, framed design sketches, old photographs of jewelers at work, and glass cases holding less valuable pieces from the company archive. When they entered the conference room, Daniel Reeves was already waiting with a laptop open. Detective Porter and Agent Bell joined by video, their faces split across the screen. The mood in the room had changed since morning. There was still tension, but now it had direction. Daniel began. "We received formal notice that Preston Caldwell intends to sue Mr. Whitmore for defamation and business interference." Jonathan gave a humorless laugh. "Of course he does," Daniel continued. "He also claims Miss Williams' statement in court contributed to reputational harm." Maya sat down. "I said, he tried to frame me. You said the evidence showed an attempt to frame you. That matters." Denise tapped the table. "His lawsuit is not about winning. It's about intimidation. He wants discovery. He wants your records. He wants to make defending yourself expensive and exhausting," Jonathan said. "Then we countersue." Denise held up one hand. "We do, but carefully. We don't make noise just to feel strong." Agent Bell spoke from the screen. "We have movement on the money trail. Victor Sloan's cousin owns the gray SUV. That cousin also received a wire transfer from a Caldwell-linked consulting account 2 days before the robbery." Detective Porter added, "And we found traffic camera footage of that SUV near Maya's apartment last night." Jonathan's hand curled into a fist on the table. "He sent people to her home." "Someone connected to the operation did," Porter said. "We still need the evidentiary bridge." Maya leaned forward. "What about the threat messages?" "Burner phone," Agent Bell said. "But the timing helps. It pinged near your route, then near Caldwell's private club, then went dark." Denise looked at Maya. "This is why we make him step into the light." Daniel turned the laptop toward the group. On the screen was a draft civil complaint. The title read, "Maya, William, and Jonathan Whitmore, v. Preston Caldwell, Caldwell Capital Holdings, and unknown co-conspirators." Maya read silently. "Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, witness intimidation, civil conspiracy, racial harassment, attempted framing, coordination with armed robbery suspects, subject to ongoing criminal investigation." She looked up. "That is a lot." Denise's voice was calm. So was what he did. Maya looked at Jonathan. "You understand. This puts the company in the middle of everything." Jonathan met her eyes. "The company was already in the middle. I was just late admitting it. There it was again. Accountability. Not polished. Not performative. Uncomfortable. But real." Before Maya could respond, Daniel's phone buzzed. He read, then looked up sharply. "Preston's media consultant is pushing a new segment tonight. The angle is that Maya's actions may have endangered customers because she fired inside the store." Maya's expression did not change. "I fired 3 shots. No one was hit," Denise said. "They don't need anyone hit. They need the word fired." Jonathan stood. "Release the footage." Daniel hesitated. "The police haven't released all of it," Detective Porter said from the screen. "We can authorize a limited clip showing the shots, with faces of civilians blurred, because it counters a false public safety claim." Agent Bell nodded. "As long as it does not compromise pending evidence." Denise looked at Maya. "Your call." Maya felt the room turn toward her. She thought of the first edited video. Preston's hand nudging the ring box. Her body bent down under the judgment of people who had not seen the beginning. She thought of the robbery footage, shaky and incomplete, already being carved into pieces by people who wanted her to look either superhuman or dangerous. Neither was true. She was a woman who had made decisions second by second because no one else could. "Release it," she said. "But not as a spectacle." Denise nodded. "Good." An hour later, the clip went out with a written statement from Denise Holloway's office. The footage was silent except for timestamps. It showed Maya standing between the robbers and the exit. It showed number 1 raising his weapon. It showed Maya firing at the marble edge beside his hand, forcing him to drop the gun. It showed the second shot breaking the latch on the stolen diamond bag. It showed the third stopping the leader's advance without striking him. It showed the falling star sliding free. It showed Maya stepping forward, removing weapons, and raising her hands before police entered. The statement was simple. Miss William used controlled, non-lethal defensive action to prevent armed suspects from escaping with hostages nearby. No civilians were struck. No suspect was shot. The full evidence has been provided to law enforcement. By evening, the national argument shifted again. A retired police commander on one network said, "That is restraint. Most people don't understand how hard it is not to hit what you're aiming near." A veteran on another panel said, "She did not shoot people. She shot opportunity out of their hands." A store clerk from Detroit posted a video in her uniform after a shift, saying, "Everybody wants workers to stay calm while being abused. Then when one of us stays calm enough to save lives, they call that suspicious." The clip spread faster than Preston's smear. Inside Preston Caldwell's penthouse, Grant Vale watched the numbers turn against them on his tablet. "This is bad," Grant said. Preston stood near the bar, jaw clenched. "You said we could make her look unstable." "I said we could raise questions." The footage answered them. Then, raise different questions. Grant looked tired now. "Preston, the FBI is circling. The civil complaint just dropped. The threat messages are being discussed as witness intimidation. We should stop public engagement." Preston turned slowly. "We?" Grant chose his words carefully. "You should stop." Preston walked closer. "You are paid to fix problems. And I'm telling you the problem is becoming criminal exposure." For a moment, Preston said nothing. Then he picked up his phone and called someone Grant did not recognize. "Find Sloan," Preston said when the call connected. "Now." Grant's face changed. "Do not do that." Preston ignored him. "If he talks, everyone talks. Handle it." Grant stepped back as if the room had become physically unsafe. At the temporary Whitmore office, Maya sat alone in a side room after the long day. Through the glass wall, she could see Jonathan speaking with Daniel and Denise. Detective Porter's video call had ended. Security stood near the elevators. The office lights reflected softly on framed jewelry sketches from decades past. Her phone buzzed. Not unknown this time. A message from Harold Jenkins, the Marine veteran from the courthouse. Denise had passed along his number after he asked permission. "Miss William, a few of us old vets are outside the office. Not for attention. Just so you know you're not walking out alone." Maya stood and went to the window. On the sidewalk below, beneath the streetlights, stood Harold Jenkins in his Marine cap. Beside him were 3 older veterans, 2 women in winter coats, and the grocery store worker who had touched 2 fingers to her heart at the courthouse. None held signs. None shouted. They simply stood there, quiet witnesses in the cold. Maya felt something in her chest loosen. Not safety. Not yet. But something close to company. Jonathan entered the room softly. "You all right?" Maya kept looking down at the people outside. "They don't even know me. They know enough." She turned from the window. "People keep saying that. Does it bother you?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I spent 2 years trying not to be seen." Jonathan came to stand beside her, leaving a respectful distance. "My father used to say a jeweler's job was to notice what others missed. A flaw, a cut, a hidden light. Maybe being seen is not always exposure. Sometimes it is recognition." Maya looked back down. Harold Jenkins glanced up as if he felt her there. He touched 2 fingers to the brim of his cap. Maya returned the smallest nod. For the first time since the truck shattered the wall, she let herself believe she might not have to carry the truth by herself. Then Detective Porter called Denise. Maya could not hear every word, but she saw Denise's posture change. Jonathan saw it too. Denise ended the call and came into the room. "They found Victor Sloan," she said. Maya turned fully toward her. "Alive?" Denise's expression was grave. "Barely." Jonathan's face hardened. "Preston?" "They don't know yet," Denise said. "But Sloan was found in a motel outside Joliet with a packed bag, a burner phone, and a gunshot wound to the shoulder. He's asking for federal protection." Maya understood at once. A scared man could run, a wounded man could talk, and a powerful man who tried to silence him had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Victor Sloan was moved before dawn. By the time the first morning anchors were reading from teleprompters, the man who had arranged the robbery at Whitmore and Vale was no longer in the Joliet motel, where police had found him bleeding through a cheap towel. He was in federal custody, under guard, in a hospital room with the curtains drawn and 2 agents outside the door. Maya William learned the details in Jonathan Whitmore's temporary conference room, where the coffee had gone cold and nobody had slept enough to hide it. Detective Porter stood at the head of the table with Agent Bell beside her on video from the federal building. Denise Holloway sat next to Maya, legal pad open, pen still. Jonathan stood near the window, staring out at the street where the small group of quiet supporters had returned with paper cups and winter coats. Agent Bell's voice came through the speaker. "Sloan is alive, conscious, and talking." Jonathan turned from the window. "Who shot him?" "He says a man he knows only as Rusk. Hired muscle. Sloan claims Rusk came to the motel to move him, not kill him. But when Sloan refused to leave without payment and protection, things went bad." Denise's eyes narrowed. "Move him where?" "Out of state first, then possibly out of the country," Maya said. "That means someone knew he was going to talk." Agent Bell looked directly at the camera. "Yes." Jonathan's voice dropped. "Preston." Detective Porter did not confirm it, but she did not deny it either. "Sloan says Caldwell was never supposed to be exposed. He says the robbery was designed as pressure, not just theft. The plan was to scare Mr. Whitmore into cooperating with the laundering network, steal the falling star if possible, and if the police arrive too fast, create confusion around an inside employee." Maya's hands remained folded. Denise looked at her. "Breathe." "I am." "Deeper." Maya took a slow breath through her nose. Denise was not wrong. Control could become its own cage if the body never received permission to release. Agent Bell continued. "Sloan says Preston personally approved using Miss William as the fallback narrative after the bracelet video went viral." Jonathan closed his eyes. Maya did not. She wanted to hear every word. "Say it plainly," she said. Agent Bell paused, then did. "According to Sloan, Caldwell believed the public would accept the idea that a black former soldier, recently humiliated at work, might help rob the store or lose control during the chaos." The room went quiet. There were many ways to harm a person. A fist was only the simplest. Preston had reached for something older and uglier. He had counted on America's suspicion to finish the job his men could not. Jonathan turned away from the window. His face had gone pale with anger. He selected her because he thought people would believe the worst. Denise said, "Yes." Maya looked down at the table, at the clean reflection of the overhead lights on the polished surface. "No," she said softly. "He selected me because he knew some people wanted to believe the worst." No one answered. They all knew she was right. Detective Porter slid a folder across the table. "Sloan also gave us the location of a storage unit in Hammond. We executed the warrant at 5 this morning. Found copies of the store floor plan, photos of the east wall, security schedules, and a printed still from the edited bracelet video." Maya opened the folder. There she was, frozen in a moment Preston had manufactured, bent at the counter, white gloves visible, face tense, a red circle drawn around her. Under the image, someone had written, "Inside angle possible." For the first time, her hand shook in front of everyone. Jonathan saw it. "Maya." She closed the folder. "I'm fine." Denise's voice was quiet but firm. "You are not fine. You are standing." Maya looked at her. Denise held her gaze. "Those are different." The words almost broke something open, but Maya held herself together, not because she wanted to hide the pain, because she needed to know what came next. "What happens now?" she asked. Agent Bell answered. "We're preparing arrest warrants. Caldwell's attorneys are already trying to negotiate voluntary surrender if charges come. We may not give him that courtesy," Jonathan said. "He doesn't deserve courtesy." Detective Porter's mouth tightened. "Deserving has less to do with it than procedure. We do it clean, or men like him claim persecution." Maya understood that. She hated it, but she understood. Justice had to walk carefully because guilt would be waiting for any stumble. Denise turned a page on her legal pad. "Maya, there is something else. If Sloan testifies, Caldwell's team will attack him as a criminal saving himself. That means they will still attack you too. They may argue, you and Sloan invented this to protect yourselves." Jonathan snapped. "That's absurd." Denise looked at him. Absurd things sound reasonable when repeated by expensive people. Maya almost smiled at that. Almost. Daniel Reeves entered with a tablet in his hand. Expression grim. Caldwell just filed for an emergency injunction to stop Jonathan from releasing additional footage or documents, claiming prejudicial publicity. Denise exhaled. "There it is." Jonathan took the tablet, read, and set it down harder than necessary. He tried to bury her with lies, and now he wants silence when the truth has documents. He wants delay, Denise said. Delay protects wealth. Detective Porter's phone buzzed. She checked it and straightened. Judge Hernandez moved the emergency hearing to this afternoon. Maya looked at the clock on the wall. It was only 8:17 a.m. The day had already become long. The courtroom was packed by 2. This time, the public benches were not filled only with reporters. The quiet witnesses had multiplied. Veterans in caps, retail workers in name tags, a group of older church ladies in winter hats, a hotel doorman still in uniform, a white-haired couple Maya recognized from the robbery footage, the woman in the cream coat and her husband. The woman's shoulder was bruised, but she sat upright, hands folded in her lap. When Maya entered, the woman reached out gently and touched her sleeve. "You saved my life," she whispered. Maya stopped. The woman's husband looked at her with wet eyes. "And mine, because I wouldn't have lived right without her." Maya swallowed. "I'm glad you're both here." "So are we," the woman said, then added with a firmness that belonged to grandmothers and Sunday school teachers. "And don't you let them twist what you did." Maya nodded once and continued to the front. Preston Caldwell was already seated with his attorney. He looked different today. Still expensive, still polished, but the polish had begun to crack. His eyes moved too often. His jaw worked as if he were chewing words he could not say. Judge Hernandez entered and wasted no time. "We are here on an emergency request to restrict public release of evidence. Mr. Sloan, since your client filed this request, begin." Everett Sloan stood. "Your Honor, my client has been subjected to reckless public accusations by Mr. Whitmore and Miss Williams' representatives. The continued release of selective footage and documents risks poisoning any future jury pool." Denise rose. "Your Honor, the only reason public clarification became necessary is because Mr. Caldwell and those aligned with him spread false claims suggesting Miss Williams was unstable, suspicious, and possibly involved in the crime. Truth is not prejudice simply because it is inconvenient." Sloan turned. "Miss Holloway continues to imply my client's involvement without a conviction." Denise's voice remained calm. "I am not implying. I am referring to sworn proffers, financial traces, recovered floor plans, threat messages, and evidence seized this morning from a storage unit provided by Victor Sloan." Preston's face changed. "Not much. Enough," Judge Hernandez noticed. "Evidence seized this morning?" Angela Brooks, the prosecutor, stood. "Yes, Your Honor. The state can provide sealed summaries. The recovered material includes photographs of the store, security schedules, and an image of Miss Williams from the edited Caldwell incident, marked in a manner suggesting she was considered for blame." The gallery stirred. Judge Hernandez looked toward Preston's table. "Mr. Sloan?" Sloan's confidence faltered for the first time. "We have not had opportunity to review these alleged materials." "That is not what I asked." He had no answer. Denise then requested permission for Maya to make a limited statement, regarding witness intimidation. Sloan objected. Hernandez overruled him. Maya stood. She felt the room, but she did not let it own her. "I did not ask to be filmed when Mr. Caldwell insulted me at work," she said. "I did not ask to be turned into a rumor after I stopped 6 armed men. I did not ask strangers to debate whether my training made me dangerous after it kept them alive. But since my name has been used in public, I will say this in public. I am not evidence for someone else's lie." The words came out steady. "I am a worker. I am a veteran. I am a witness. And I am not going to stay quiet. So the person who targeted me can feel protected." Preston stared at the table. "Judge Hernandez, let the silence sit." Then, she ruled, "The request to broadly restrict corrective release of evidence is denied. Evidence must remain subject to law enforcement protections, privacy redactions, and trial rules. But this court will not be used to shield one party's public narrative while gagging another party's documented response." She looked directly at Preston. "Furthermore, based on new information presented, this court expands the protective order around Miss William. Any contact, direct or indirect, by Mr. Caldwell or his agents is prohibited." Preston's attorney stood. "Your Honor, I am not finished," Judge Hernandez said. "Given the threat messages and surveillance concerns, any violation will be treated with utmost seriousness." The gavel came down. Outside the courtroom, the reporters surged again, but this time Maya did not feel the same cold pressure in her chest. Denise walked beside her. Jonathan followed close. Detective Porter waited near the hallway with Agent Bell. Porter's phone rang. She listened. Then her expression shifted into something Maya recognized immediately. "Action." Porter ended the call and looked at them. Federal judge signed the warrant. Jonathan's voice was low. "For Preston?" Agent Bell nodded. "For Preston Caldwell." At the far end of the hallway, Everett Sloan was speaking urgently into Preston's ear. Preston turned toward the exit, moving fast now. Too fast. 2 federal agents stepped into his path. "Preston Caldwell," one said, voice carrying down the marble corridor. "You are under arrest." The hallway erupted. Cameras flashed through the glass doors. Reporters shouted. Sloan protested. Preston's face twisted with fury, then fear, then disbelief, as if no room in the world had ever dared close around him before. As the agents took his wrists, Preston looked over his shoulder and found Maya. For a moment, there was no lawyer, no money, no polished statement between them, only truth. "You did this," he said. Maya looked at him, calm now in a way that did not need armor. "No," she said. "You did, and this time, everyone heard it." For 3 seconds after the agents cuffed Preston Caldwell, the courthouse hallway forgot how to breathe. Then sound returned all at once. Reporters shouted his name. Cameras flashed white against the marble walls. Everett Sloan protested, so loudly, his voice cracked. Preston twisted once against the agent's grip. Not enough to escape, just enough to prove he had never imagined his own wrists could belong in handcuffs. "This is outrageous," Sloan barked. "My client is prepared to surrender voluntarily." One of the federal agents looked at him without expression. "He can voluntarily walk with us." Preston's face turned red. "You have no idea who you're humiliating." Maya Williams stood several yards away, still beside Denise Holloway and Jonathan Whitmore. She heard the sentence clearly. Even now, with federal agents holding him, Preston's first thought was not innocence. It was status, not what he had done, but who he believed he was. Detective Porter stepped closer to Maya, blocking the worst of the cameras. "Keep moving." Maya did not move immediately. Her eyes remained on Preston. He looked at her again, hatred burning through the polished mask he had worn for years. "This isn't over," Denise answered before Maya could. "That is the first honest thing you've said." Porter gave Denise a look that almost became a smile, then motioned toward the secure exit. "Now we move." Jonathan walked beside Maya as they passed through the side corridor. Behind them, the noise swelled. Preston was being led in the opposite direction, into a different hallway, toward a waiting federal vehicle and a future he could not buy his way out of easily. At the end of the corridor, Maya stopped near a window. Outside, the courthouse steps were packed. Some people held phones, Some held signs. One sign read, "Workers deserve dignity." Another, held by a woman in a hotel uniform, said, "We believe Maya." Harold Jenkins stood near the curb with his marine cap pulled low against the wind. Beside him stood the woman in the cream coat, one hand tucked into her husband's arm. Maya looked at them and felt the strange ache of being supported by people she had never asked to carry anything for her. Jonathan followed her gaze. They came back. "Yes," Maya said. "Does that help?" She thought about it. "It makes it harder to disappear." Jonathan nodded slowly. "Maybe that is not always a bad thing." Maya did not answer. By late afternoon, Preston Caldwell's arrest led every major broadcast in Chicago. By evening, it had gone national. The same channels that had questioned Maya's unexplained conduct now displayed Preston's mugshot beside words like conspiracy, laundering network, attempted framing, and armed robbery plot. His old statement about concern for serious questions was replayed with new contempt. Reporters who had once leaned toward suspicion now leaned toward outrage. But Maya knew better than to mistake a change in tone for justice. Justice was not a headline. It was evidence. It was procedure. It was the long, grinding work of making truth survive contact with money. That night, Denise gathered Maya, Jonathan, Daniel Reeves, Detective Porter, and Agent Bell on a secure video call. Maya sat at her kitchen table with a fresh cup of tea cooling beside her. Jonathan appeared from his office, his tie loosened, his face drawn. Porter was at her desk, surrounded by case files. Agent Bell looked like he had not left the federal building in 2 days. Denise began. "Preston's arrest is important, but it is not the end. It is the beginning of the next phase," Maya said. "Discovery, hearings, motions, attacks on witnesses." Denise looked at her through the screen. "You have been listening. I've been accused before." That quiet sentence stopped the room for a moment. Agent Bell continued gently. "Preston is charged initially with conspiracy, obstruction, witness intimidation, and financial crimes tied to the laundering investigation. Additional charges may come once Sloane's testimony is fully corroborated." Jonathan leaned forward. "What about the 6 men? 4 are negotiating," Porter said. "Number 1 is trying to hold out. The leader wants separate counsel. Number 2 remains the strongest cooperating witness so far." Maya took a slow breath. "And Sloane?" Agent Bell's eyes narrowed slightly. "Sloane is scared. That makes him useful, but not clean. He admits he arranged logistics. He says Preston authorized the plan through coded language and intermediaries. We have money movement, phone records, floor plans, and the storage unit. We still need to tie Preston's intent directly to the robbery and to the plan to frame you," Denise added. "Which means they will still try to make you look unreliable." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "After everything? Especially after everything," Denise said. "The more damaging your truth becomes, the more they need people to doubt the person carrying it." Maya looked at her tea. It had gone untouched. Porter's voice softened. "Maya, there's something you should know before they leak it. Caldwell's team has obtained the name of the civilian contractor who filed that old complaint against you overseas." Maya's fingers stilled around the cup. Jonathan looked confused. "The man she restrained for striking the interpreter?" "Yes," Porter said. "He's been contacted by someone from Caldwell's side." Maya's face stayed calm, but her eyes changed. "What did he say?" "We don't know yet, but we expect they'll try to use him." Denise leaned closer to the camera. "Tell us his name." "Eric Langford," Maya said. "He worked logistics. Civilian contractor. He hit Samira, our interpreter, because she refused to falsify a delivery receipt. I restrained him. He filed a complaint. 3 witnesses cleared me." Porter nodded. "Can we locate Samira?" The question hit harder than Maya expected. For a second, the kitchen around her seemed to fade. She saw dust, a blue scarf, a young woman with fierce eyes standing outside a rebuilt school, insisting that stolen supplies were stolen supplies, no matter whose signature.